What's going on, guys? Matty Ice here. Welcome back to another episode of Investing with Matty Ice, where I share my investing journey with you guys, specifically when it comes to income ETFs. Today, I want to answer the question, should I sell my BTCI shares? Because right now, guys, I'm down almost 25%. Oh my gosh, that is just the end of the world. I obviously made a mistake here, and I should probably sell and cut my losses and get out while I still can, right? Especially since, I don't know if you guys have heard, apparently Bitcoin has failed. That's going to zero, has no intrinsic value. This is just the end of Bitcoin. Every time there's a bear market in Bitcoin, it's the end of Bitcoin. Thus would likely be the end of BTCI. So I should probably sell, right? Am I going to? Not a freaking chance. In fact, not only am I not selling my BTCI, I am aggressively buying more. In fact, today, I put in another buy order at $30.90 per share. It unfortunately has not been filled yet. Of course, it rallied as soon as I put the order in, which is a little frustrating, but it is what it is. And basically, I'm deploying the second round of capital from the loan that I took out to buy more BTCI. That's how bullish I am. I took out a freaking loan to buy more BTCI, guys. And I did an entire video on that. Where I walk you through the numbers, the strategy, why I'm doing it, the type of loan that I'm using that significantly reduces my risk. I will link to that video in the description. Make sure you check that one out. That was really good. Okay. But guys, despite all of the negativity around Bitcoin and BTCI, whatever, I am more bullish than ever. So no, I'm not panicking at all. In fact, I am really, really excited. All right. I think, now this is just my opinion. It's not financial investment advice. This is just what I think. In my opinion, we have a massive, massive opportunity in front of us. This is an opportunity of a lifetime to acquire assets like Bitcoin, BTCI, etc. Because I'm accumulating both at a massive, massive discount. I can accumulate an income-producing asset that is wrapped around Bitcoin with Bitcoin exposure on a freaking fire sale on a 60% discount. You better believe I am absolutely going to take advantage of that. Now, am I early? Am I getting in right at the bottom? No. Am I early? Yes. That's why my portfolio is down. But I'm going to give you guys some specific examples of why, this is just part of the process. Okay. But I consider this a gift from the market right now to acquire assets I want to hold for the long term at a steep discount. I'm not trading here. I'm not thinking about 6 to 12 months from now. I'm thinking about 6 to 12 years down the road, what these things are going to do. And is it more or less likely that Bitcoin is going to be at an new all-time high, way above the previous one in 12 years, 6 to 12 years, than it is going to zero? I think it's way more likely that it's making new all-time highs at some point. When? I don't know. All right, but here's why I am extremely bullish on Bitcoin, thus very bullish on BTCI. That's kind of the core of my investment thesis here, is because I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, obviously, I'm very bullish on BTCI. Okay. So my thesis hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed here is the price of Bitcoin. It's going through a bear market. It's down 50% from its all-time high, which is, guys, when you look at the history of bear markets for Bitcoin, this is nothing. Now, it could continue to go lower. I hope it does, because that means I can stack more sats and more shares even cheaper. I hope it goes down more. I'm anticipating one more move down. But that's all that's really changed. Like, has Bitcoin been hacked? Has there been a double spend attack? Have governments banned it? Did they change? Has the 21 million supply cap been changed? Has anything about Bitcoin itself changed negatively? No, it hasn't. In fact, it's the complete opposite, right? We're seeing what used to be massive headwinds trying to destroy Bitcoin completely evaporated just over the last few years and have actually turned into massive tailwinds that are accelerating its growth and adoption. Okay. So just think about just the last few years of what's happened with Bitcoin, where it used to be it was literally called rat poison. Was it by Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger? I can't remember which one. Comment down below which one said it was called rat poison. All right, but it's gone from rat poison, phony, scammy, digital money, whatever, to now public companies holding it on their balance sheet by the thousands and thousands and thousands of companies now buying and using Bitcoin, buying it to hold on their treasury. You have actual Bitcoin treasury companies now. I mean, take a look at Strategy by Michael Saylor, who owns it's almost 3.5% now of the entire Bitcoin supply that will ever exist. That's absolutely insane. What does that do for supply and demand later on, especially since he has no plans of ever selling the Bitcoin, right? So you've gone from rat poison to public companies holding it on their balance sheet. You've gone from governments trying to ban it to governments buying it and establishing strategic Bitcoin reserves. We have one for the federal government here now in the US. And there's also multiple states that are passing legislation now to establish their own strategic Bitcoin reserve. In fact, I think Texas already passed it, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So a complete 180, all right? It's gone from a scam, from being the scam, Ponzi scheme, whatever, to massive institutional adoption, massive financial infrastructure. We're seeing all different kinds of financial products being built around it, and it's just a game changer. It's just incredible how much progress Bitcoin is making, despite it being down 50% right now. Okay, and here's the other thing to remember, guys. The money printer still exists. Do you really think they're not going to Did they turn off the money printer? Are they never going to print money again? No. I think the big print is coming pretty soon. Who knows when? Okay, but quantitative tightening is done. They are lowering interest rates. We are getting, what is it called? A more dovish Fed in May, I think. Well, he's supposed to be anyways. I don't know. I don't really care. But the point is, they're going to print the money, especially since we have an inflationary monetary system. Okay. That is now colliding with a massively deflationary technological revolution called AI. AI is extremely deflationary, guys, because it reduces costs significantly across the board. That is a problem for an inflationary monetary system. They are going to have to print the money. They can't have deflation in a debt-based monetary system. You will collapse everything back to a Great Depression, or maybe worse now that it's bigger, okay? They are going to have to print a ridiculous amount of money. Guys, what happens when they print a ridiculous amount of money? Assets go through the roof, especially Bitcoin. We're talking Bitcoin to the moon, smashing past the previous all-time high of 127,000. Now, when is that going to happen? I don't know, all right? But that's why, I'm not trying to time anything, all right? I'm not trying to time the bottom. I'm not trying to time the top. I don't know when that's going to happen. That's also one of the benefits of BTCI is that it doesn't really matter because I'm generating a lot of cash flow while I'm waiting for that move to happen anyways, right? So it's not like I'm just sitting. I mean, I don't mind just sitting on Bitcoin, but that's part of the financial infrastructure that's being built around Bitcoin that I think is so amazing. It just provides so much opportunity for people because we can now monetize Bitcoin's volatility and turn it into cash flow with something like BTCI while we wait for Bitcoin to go to the moon. I think that's freaking awesome. Why would I not accumulate that when it's at a 60% discount right now? I don't care if it goes down more next week. I'm going to buy more next week if that happens. I hope it does. Right? So all of that is why I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin. Thus, I'm bullish on BTCI. Here's another reason why I'm bullish, because the media is bearish. The media is talking about how Bitcoin has failed. And, this is the end of Bitcoin. It's always the end of Bitcoin whenever we enter a bear market, right? But remember this, go back to the great financial crisis, 2008. What happened? What were they talking about before the crash happened? About politicians, the Fed chairman, I think it was Bernanke at the time, media, government officials, whatever, all talking about how strong the stock and real estate markets were, especially the real estate market, right? Really, really strong markets. And then what happened? Everybody got wrecked. Just it crashed almost like nothing we've ever seen since the Great Depression. Right? I think the S&P was down 50%. Wasn't it 40 or 50%? Something crazy. Okay. But the media was telling us the whole time that everything's good, everything's strong, until it freaking tanked and wrecked everybody. Now the same media is telling us that Bitcoin is over. Bitcoin is dead. It's failed. No. When the media starts hating on something, that's actually usually when not just media, but just society in general, and investors in general, when the sentiment is so bearish, where people think it's the end, that is actually an indication that we're getting close to a bottom. Could still go down a little bit further. Okay, we don't really know, but it's when the fear and the panic are at its peak. That's when we're getting close to the bottom. That's usually when we want to buy assets. When we get to a state of pure euphoria and lots of greed, and the market can never go down, then that's usually a time to get out, right? So when the media is saying Bitcoin's dead, I'm thinking the opposite, all right? So that's another reason that I'm pretty bullish. And actually here at the bottom, another thing, Bitcoin over the last 12 months, according to river.com, it's exchanging hands from individuals to institutions. Now, I don't think this is all panic selling by individuals. So you can see a net outflow for individuals pretty significantly versus a positive inflow for businesses, funds, and ETFs, et cetera. Now, I think some of it was, people who were invested in Bitcoin really early, just cashing in. Like, I can't blame them. If I was sitting on a couple $1 billion of Bitcoin profit, I might sell it and go buy the house I want, the car I want, et cetera. So can't really blame them. However, I'm pretty sure that there are also a lot of people, a lot of individuals that bought at or near the top, and now it's tanking, and you have all this negative media around it, scaring people into panic selling. But who's buying it? Well, I'm buying it. I'm one buyer, but obviously I'm not buying anywhere. I can't buy nearly as much as these institutions do. So it's exchanging hands from individuals, which is kind of sad, over to institutions, big money. So big money is buying this asset right now, while Main Street individuals, retail investors are selling it. That's usually a good, I don't know. Usually you want to follow the big money, guys. So institutions are buying, again, a net positive for change in Bitcoin ownership versus individuals. So do we follow Main Street or do we follow big money? Well, I'm following big money. Now, I would do this regardless of whether they were buying or not. All right, but it's just another indication. So I want to give you guys some specific examples here of when assets crash. And just because they crash and enter a bear market doesn't mean they're going to zero, okay? I think that's a good way to put it. Volatility is the price of admission. If you can't handle these market swings, then you probably shouldn't be in Bitcoin. You probably shouldn't be in BTCI. You need to find something else, okay? Because Bitcoin's an extremely volatile asset, but that works to our advantage, in my opinion. Number one, when Bitcoin crashes, we can stack sats cheap, right? That's very powerful. I can buy more of this apex monetary asset with a limited supply. Can't be inflated away by governments. Can't be censored, et cetera. That to me is a really good opportunity. But then also the volatility is a gift for something like BTCI, because that's what translates to the extremely high yield, currently sitting around 28%. It's really powerful. Now, here's the thing. Just because something is going down in price doesn't mean it's going to zero. If you look at the chart, at the time of this recording, Microsoft is down 30% from its all-time high at the moment. And Microsoft is one of the biggest companies in the world, most successful companies in the world. So just because Microsoft's price is down 30%, does that mean it's failed, or it is failing, or it's going to zero? Probably not. It's going through a bear market just like any other asset does from time to time. But that doesn't mean that Microsoft is going anywhere. Well, it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Just because Bitcoin's down right now doesn't mean it's going to zero. Okay, at some point, do you think Microsoft will recover? Probably. Do you think Bitcoin will recover? Well, if you believe in Bitcoin, you understand it, then the answer is absolutely yes. I believe it absolutely will recover and make new all-time highs at some point. But my point is, just because something's down in price does not mean it's going to zero. Amazon. How many times was Amazon called a failed business before it too became one of the most successful and just biggest companies in the world? I think Amazon crashed, was it 95% during the dot-com crisis in between 2000 and 2002? Okay, that doesn't mean it failed. It's one of the biggest companies in the world now. Apple has crashed multiple times. And I was listening to an interview that Michael Saylor was doing the other day, and he gave this example about how the iPhone, it wasn't until iPhone 5 where when Apple really started to take off, I think it was. I'll have to dive into more of that, but maybe I'll link the interview down below. But it was just another good example of there's volatility with these assets as they develop, as they evolve, as they figure out who they are and what they are in the marketplace. Like, Bitcoin is still young. It's still figuring out where, as Bitcoiners, we know what it is and where it belongs, right? But it takes time for it to integrate into our society, into our system. It's a brand new asset, something that we've never seen before. And you have trillions of dollars interacting with it. Of course, it's going to be volatile. That doesn't mean it's failing. All right, look at the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is doing right now, and it's setting up for a massive run at some point. Don't know when it's going to be, but that's my opinion. All right, so that's another reason I'm really bullish, and just some examples. Now, I want to give some examples, some lessons here that I got from The Big Short. If you guys have not seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It is really good, especially if you are investing in stuff like Bitcoin and BTCI, whatever. I mean, really investing in general. There's so many good lessons from that movie. So here's a couple. Jared Vennett, he was the guy that pitched, what was the fund? I can't remember, Mark Baum's fund, about these credit default swaps to short the real estate, the housing market, right? Okay, well, in that movie, at the end of that movie, when after the crash and he made all his money, he says, I had to take a rash of shit for 2 years. Like everybody was just giving me shit. But everybody was wrong, and I was right. And he got a $47 million bonus. He said something of that nature, right? But he endured volatility in some way, shape, or form, many different shapes and forms, for 2 years before it finally paid off. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm at right now in my journey with Bitcoin and BTCI. It's getting hammered right now. It's getting beat up. And it's like there's a lot of negative attention around it, and people think you're crazy for buying into it, et cetera, because all they see is the price going down. But that's where long-term conviction really starts to come into play, and sticking to the data. So he stuck to the data. He stuck to his guns, stuck to the data. The data made sense. The data was screaming, sell, sell, sell the housing market, or bet against it, right? And it took a little while, but eventually it paid off huge for him. Same thing with Michael Burry. So Michael Burry, in that movie, there's a couple of really good lines from him in that movie. The first one was when his investors are very concerned about this investment that he's making, because the housing market has never crashed the way that he is predicting it, right? And everybody's saying the housing market is rock solid, right? Defaults are low, et cetera. Okay, Michael Burry completely disagreed based on the data. And he said, I might be early, but I'm not wrong. And I think that's huge, because that's how I feel right now with BTCI, and with my portfolio being down 25%, roughly 25% right now. I'm early. I get it. Fine. That's because I'm not trying to time the bottom. I want to get a position just in case this is the bottom. And if it continues down further, I will continue deploying capital, just dollar cost averaging down. Now, if I put all of my capital in at once at my first purchase of BTCI, which was at $45 a share, yeah, I mean, it's trading at like $31.50 right now. That would suck a little bit. I mean, still hold on to it long term, whatever. It's generating cash flow. You reinvest distributions and brings your cost basis down. That would suck. Okay, so, but the point is, I'm early, sure. That's why I'm down right now. But I don't think I'm wrong. I think Bitcoin is absolutely going to recover at some point and blow right through its previous all-time highs. What is that going to do for BTCI? It's probably going to be pretty good. Okay, and so during the time when Michael Burry had his trade open, his portfolio was down 20%, maybe more. And we're talking about like billions of dollars. All right. He was sued by his investors, and he ended up, after the crash took place and he sold his credit default swaps, et cetera, the fund was up over 400%, give or take, something like that, something crazy. Right. So it paid off. Yes, he had to take a lot of shit throughout the couple of years. All right. But he was, and he was early, but he wasn't wrong. And it paid off in a very, very big way. So I kind of feel the same way with my BTCI trade right now. Yes, I'm early, but I don't think I'm wrong. And I think this is just a massive, massive opportunity, in my opinion. Now, I always want to make this clear too, guys. Like this is why I don't panic, and I'm not worried that my portfolio is down right now. It's because I'm not trading. I'm investing for the long run. I'm not thinking about 6 to 12 months from now. I'm thinking about 6 to 12 years. All right. So when you're trading, you have this really high time preference. You're in and out of trades very quick, maybe a couple weeks, couple months, whatever. It tends to be pretty emotional. It's like an emotional roller coaster ride, right? It's very difficult to do versus an investing mindset, which has a much lower time preference. It's thesis driven. I think that's probably the core part here too. Is, like I mentioned earlier, nothing's changed about Bitcoin except it's growing faster and faster and faster with regards to adoption. So, and because Bitcoin is so volatile, I'm expecting the price swings. I'm okay with that. I invite that. I get excited when Bitcoin comes down, thus BTCI, because then I could stack more at an a lower price. Right. And so I'm thinking in years, not weeks, guys. I think that's a big difference. Okay. So lower your time preference here. Did I say that right? Think longer term. That's what I mean. All right. Now, the other benefit of BTCI is that we're generating cash flow now. It's not like I'm sitting on Bitcoin waiting 10 years for it to go to the moon. All right. I obviously have Bitcoin. I think it's going to the moon at some point. All right. That's fine. But what I love about BTCI is it actually makes handling the volatility a lot easier because of that cash flow. When you're reinvesting those distributions, you're lowering your cost basis every single month. And it kind of provides that volatility cushion a little bit. So monthly income, also strategic capital deployment, guys. I can't stress that enough. Not deploying all of your capital at once, but deploying it very methodically, dollar cost averaging. What I do is during any major or like significant correction, if BTCI is down 5% in a day or maybe 10% in a week, whatever, that's my indication that it's time to deploy more capital, which is why I tried to do more today. But it's rallying a little bit at the moment, but it is what it is, right? Now, let's wrap this up. The real question that you need to ask yourself, guys, is can you to determine if BTCI is right for you or not, or even Bitcoin, can you handle your portfolio being down temporarily? See, for me, I can. This does not impact my quality of life whatsoever. It has nothing to do with my businesses. I have strong cash flow in my businesses. Expenses are paid every month. I'm not worried about this. Like I said, I'm holding this stuff for a very long time, so I can handle my portfolio being down temporarily because I'm thinking about the long term and what it's going to do in the future. All right, can you handle being called crazy or stupid or moronic or whatever, out of your mind, whatever? Because that's going to happen. It's not easy. It's not easy buying something on the way down, buying an asset when it's wrecked, especially when there's such a negative narrative around it, all this negative crap coming out about it. It's tough to buy that. And when people find out you're buying that, then they're going to think you're crazy. Can you handle that? I can't, because I don't give a crap. I know what my investment thesis is. I'm very confident in it. I'm going to be the one laughing all the way to the bank at some point later on down the road. Okay. Can you handle holding through the panic? See, I don't really panic, but I could. It doesn't feel good watching your portfolio go down 25%. Okay. But can you handle that? If you can, then, and you're in it for the long run, you're probably going to be fine. Right. And are you going to stick with your data? Right. That's what I always go back to. The data, the thesis, the narrative around Bitcoin. Like, what is Bitcoin? Why did you get into this in the first place? I asked myself that. Why did I get into this in the first place? And has any of that changed? No. In fact, it's gotten better because Bitcoin continues to be adopted. Like the adoption of Bitcoin through institutions and companies and governments, et cetera, continues to accelerate every day. So I'm not worried about it. Right. So anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap up with that, guys. I just wanted to, I don't know, what is this? What would you call this? A reminder about why BTCI is so freaking powerful, why Bitcoin is so powerful and just a gift to the world. Not panic selling. Portfolio is down right now. That's okay. I expected it. Deploying capital strategically, going to be just fine. So anyways, love to hear your feedback, guys. Drop some comments down below, and I will talk to you in the next one. To your success. Matty Ice is out.